Hello, everybody. Welcome to Late Night Football. Welcome to our transfer roundup show. Lots to get into. And obviously, as always, send in your comments as well. Share your thoughts on what we're going to discuss because a lot of transfer news, a lot of busy day, particularly busy day for Manchester United. A lot of incoming, news, a lot of outgoing news. So we'll cover all of that. But before we do that, I do want to talk about Chelsea. I want to talk about Enzo Fernandez and what happened yesterday with regards to the racist video that went up online. I mean, what I will say is that Enzo made a massive mistake, and and all those players who signed I saw made a massive mistake, and I really hope that tough action is taken against them. I'm not talking about bans or anything or termination of contracts or anything of that sort, but definitely there needs to be stricter action taken because yes, Enzo apologized, yes, Chelsea have talked about it, but there needs to be action behind that. I think people need to understand that this is not okay. What Enzo did was not okay. What Julian Alvarez and what the other Argentinian players that were singing did was not okay. And for anybody who's trying to go, well, there were so many players. Why is Enzo being singled out? Well, because Enzo was stupid enough to actually upload that video online. Like it's one thing to be drunk, and I'm assuming they were drunk. And they did that singing, which was absolutely inappropriate, and they shouldn't have done it in the first place. But to do that and then to actually brashly upload it online is just something it takes a whole other level of stupidity. And the players that they're singing about, the fact is that these are players that many of them play with, and these are players that many of them are teammates at club level, and yet they do these kind of songs, and they talk about this kind of trash. It's just unacceptable in the modern day society today. So I am a big believer in second chances, so I hope that Enzo learns from this. It's good on him that he apologized. I hope he learns from this. I hope he's not making these kind of mistakes again. But even so, words are words. Sometimes you also have to put action behind those words. Actions need to have consequences. So hopefully there will be some kind of action that will be taken. Nothing too harsh, nothing too strict, but certainly something that sends a message that this kind of stuff is not acceptable. So having said that, obviously FIFA looking into it. So FIFA might take some action, against the Argentinian FA. They might take some action against the players for it. Obviously Chelsea might take some action against Enzo Fernandez for it. Hopefully Manchester City will do the same with Julian Alvarez. He was one of them who was singing as well. There are other players, I think, in that who were singing. Hopefully their clubs, whoever they are. The problem for me is I think Emiliano Martinez was in that as well. So hopefully Aston Villa takes some action against him as well. And the video is quite getting, so I'm not able to make out who exactly were the ones who actually were singing. There were quite a few, and whoever they were, I hope all their clubs take action against these players. Not extreme measures, but certainly something to remind them and tell them that this is not okay and that they need to be more careful and mindful of what they say and what they do and how they think and how they behave in certain situations going forward in the future. So hopefully that happens. But having said that, let's get back to transfer stories now, which is what the show is about. And Manchester United doing a lot of early business for a change, which is a big stark contrast to what used to happen before, where there's all sorts of rumors and gossip, and we're interested in A and we're interested in B and C, and in the end you end up with none of them, and you end up with XYZ who nobody really wanted. So it's good to see that changing. And Leny Yoro, a deal that really heated up yesterday. We were talking about the fact that now he's considering joining Manchester United. We got a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. So that deal looks like it has been done. Looks like it is going to be done by tomorrow. They're hoping that there will be no hijacks and that he will sign the contract. So the first part of the medical was done. The second part will be done tomorrow, and then the contract will be signed. So we got a here we go from Fabrizio Romano. I am still the paranoid person inside me, the superstitious person inside me. I'm still worried that maybe Real Madrid would pull a last minute heist, because he has not signed it yet, right? And until you sign a contract, the contract doesn't become valid. So he's done everything, but that contract has not been signed yet. So I'm still wary that maybe Real Madrid will come in with like some kind of last minute hijack. Obviously the thing with this is now Lille have to accept a bid, and because Leny Yoro has already done everything, right? So if Lille don't accept Real Madrid's bid, then Yoro will sign the contract with Manchester United. That is my understanding. But if Real Madrid come in and say, because I don't know what Real Madrid were offering. Manchester United have offered 50 million plus 12. I wonder if Real Madrid said we'll do 45 plus 5 or 40. I know what the thing is, but if they say we'll do 45 plus 5, it's significantly less. But maybe Leny Yoro will say, you know what, Madrid have offered a good enough deal, take it, I want to go there. It could happen. Unlikely, very unlikely. If Fabrizio Romano is given a year we go, that generally 99% means that the deal is done. But it's Madrid, and so you always worry that 1% is always a worry. So I will wait until it's done to really be excited about it. But if and when it does get pulled off, I think it's a fantastic deal for Manchester United, because it's a player that Real Madrid wanted. To be able to get a player that Real Madrid wanted, a player who's so highly rated, Liverpool wanted him as well. To be able to pull that deal off, I think it's fantastic business for Manchester United. So it's wonderfully well done, and the price is reasonable enough. 62 million euros altogether. 50 million euros upfront, which is about 44 million pounds. It's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal for a player. And if he does fulfill his potential, then they're looking at a potentially mega transfer fee in the future. So hopefully he is as good as, you know, the YouTube videos, and as good as the scouts that the talent scouts that have scouted him say that he is. I hope so. United desperately need that to work, but it's a good deal, definitely. And the fallout from that is, of course, number one, what I said yesterday, and I think what is now coming out, is that the Ligt deal is not dead. And it can't be dead because you can't just buy one central defender and say that is it. It's not going to work. United needed two at least. I say they probably needed three, but they definitely need at least two. And so the Ligt deal is not dead. And as I said, I think what is going to happen is they're first going to try to get some outgoings, you know, work on that, get some money in, and then they will sign Matthias Ligt. So that deal is not dead, and it shouldn't have been, because it was, the Ligt deal was never dependent on a second defender. They were going to go for two defenders. So what changed? That somebody said, well, if they're signing Yoro, then Ligt is not happening. That only makes sense if United are still interested in Branthwaite, but the Branthwaite deal was told to be dead. So then the Ligt and Yoro deal now should not be dead. And speaking of Branthwaite, apparently Everton are a little bit miffed and a little bit curious that, well, why did you know, they were not willing to pay 70 million for Branthwaite, but they paid 50 million euros for a player who's got only 1 year left in his contract, is 18 or 19 or whatever he is. Why is that the thing? Well, Everton, Branthwaite is not worth 70 million pounds. Let me just say that right away. No English defender is ever worth 70, is ever going to be worth 70 million pounds. John Stones is probably the only one who comes close to that figure. And even then, I probably wouldn't pay 70 million pounds for John Stones either. So if you ask for ridiculous sums, and United have paid ridiculous sums in the past, so you thought you could ask for a ridiculous sum, what would have happened in the past, which United would have said, no, and then pay 75 million in the end, ended up paying 75 million to do the deal in the end. What now they have done, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come in the future, they've said, well, you know what? I've got three fingers. The middle one is for you. And, we're just going to go and sign another defender, because there's enough defenders out there in the market that we can sign. Whether he's from Liga doesn't matter. A lot of great players in world football across, I played in Liga. Kylian Mbappe has come from Liga, and he's probably the best player in the world right now. There are many other top talents have come from Liga. They've come from the Eredivisie. They've come from smaller leagues, and they've made it big in the Premier League. So that isn't really even a concern. The fact of the matter is that he's a good player who's got a lot of potential, and maybe United have tad overpaid, maybe, and that's only because there are other big clubs interested, so they had to pay a little bit more. But it's not, but it's still a reasonable fee compared to what Everton were asking for Branthwaite. So that's on that. Apparently Liverpool were also interested, and Liverpool are a little bit sad as well, because they thought that Leny only wanted to go to Spain. He wasn't interested in a move to Liverpool, so they kind of just pulled out and went, well, we're not going to compete with Real Madrid for that signing. And then, as it turns out, he is going to England anyway. He's not going to Spain, he's going to England, but he's going to Manchester instead. So it's an interesting stories that are coming out about this, and we'll keep an eye on that. But I think for now, the focus really from Manchester United's point of view is to get that deal across the line, and then start thinking about others, because there is other things that are happening. Mason Greenwood has also left Manchester United, officially confirmed that he has gone to Marseille. This was something that was done quite a long time ago, but it was done in terms of the fee was agreed a long time ago, but they were just trying to convince Greenwood that he should go to France. He has finally accepted that, yes, I want to go to Marseille. So 27 million euros, I think, is the fee, and also a 50% sell-on clause, which means that United would get 50% of any future fee that Marseille get for the player. So interesting. Again, that one is a very good deal for Manchester United. I think the upfront fee is good, and also the fact that they've got a sell-on clause means that in future potentially they could get a big chunk of money as well. And if they ever decide to bring Greenwood back, because they've got that 50% sell-on clause, they'll be able to negotiate a cheaper fee as well, because they will only have to pay 50% of it, because that's how it works. So yeah, so that's a good deal as well for Manchester United. Also, wan-Bissaka, a bid was rejected, I think, for 15 million pounds. They want closer to 2025. At the moment, West Ham are kind of negotiating an 18 million pound fee. That one is a bit surprising to me, and to be honest, I think that is a deal that may not be the best thing for Manchester United. And the reason why I say that is because if you get 18 million pounds for Adam wan-Bissaka, you need to buy a backup right back, right? Because you can't have just Dalo. So you need to buy a backup right back. Are they going to get another right back for 18 million pounds? Are they going to be able to buy a good right back for 18 million pounds? Now, Willy Kambala could have played at right back, and maybe there's somebody in the youth team that they think could be a backup. I haven't seen and I haven't heard of anybody who could do it. But if they do feel like they can get a backup right back from the youth team, then that's fine. But otherwise, they're going to have to buy a backup right back. Do they have any targets in mind who they think will come for less than 18 million pounds? Right, because that's what you want to do. If you're gonna sell someone for 18, you've got to try to buy someone that's less than that, because United don't have a lot of money. So that's where I'm a little bit concerned. I don't see what sort of right back you could get that will be coming for less than 18 million pounds, unless there's somebody already lined up, and I could be wrong, and hopefully I am wrong, and hopefully there is some hidden gem that is available for less than 18 that I don't know about, because that's the kind of signings that excite me. But at this moment in time, I haven't heard of United being linked to any right backs. The only one that we heard was Frimpong, and Frimpong is definitely not 18 million. That's definitely more than that. So what are the options that are out there? So I'm a little bit concerned about that. I think United need to look for a bit of high fee. If they're going to sell wan-Bissaka, I think they need to look for a higher fee. I think they need to look for at least 25-30, which then they can use to buy, a right back of substantial enough quality. My thing actually was that probably you shouldn't even sell wan-Bissaka. I would probably say buy a right back anyway, but don't sell wan-Bissaka, and then you could have Dalo as your first choice left back, because Shaw cannot play those games anyway. So let Shaw be a backup left back. And then you have on the other side, you probably get, let wan-Bissaka be your, backup right back to somebody who's the first choice right back. So that was how I was going to do it. But again, I understand, and that but then I understand that maybe they need the money, so they're looking at it from that perspective. But yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, and it is one of those bold decisions that I think time will tell whether that actually works out or not. But at this moment in time, 18 million pounds seems too low to be selling wan-Bissaka for, when you cannot guarantee that you'll get another right back for a price lower than that. And they've also rejected a bid for Scott McTominay. That's one I agree with. And then looking for at least 30 million pounds for him. I think Fulham bid closer to 20 million pounds, and absolutely agree with that. Scott McTominay is a homegrown player. He's British. Definitely should not be going for less than 30. Even 30 seems a bit low, because he's got some qualities that I think Fulham would benefit from. And any club would he's a good player. Scott McTominay is a good player for a mid-table club, or club that is probably going to be challenging for Conference League spot, I think, or the Europa League spot. Actually, he's a good player for that. He's probably not he's not a player that for a team that's that has top 4 aspirations. He can't be a starter for those kind of teams, or a title challenging team for that matter. But a team that is competing for Europa League spots, for Conference League spots, a mid-table club, McTominay's got a lot to offer to that, because he has goals in him. He's someone who's very tenacious. Obviously he's got a lot of energy. And he is a starter for Scotland as well. So he's got those qualities, and you've got to look for at least 30 million pounds. So I'm totally fine with them rejecting, because again, if they sell McTominay, then unless the plan is that it's gonna be Mount and Menu as your midfield too, which is an absolute disaster waiting to happen. But you probably say Mount, Menu, Ugart is probably going to be the other guy, and then they'll probably bring, and then McTominay is probably your 4th midfielder. Then that makes sense. But if unless Ederson is, but even if Ederson is saying, Ederson and McTominay don't play the same role. So unless the plan is that you've got somebody, some midfielder that's already there, I don't see anybody who can, I can't see anybody who can be sort of a natural replacement for McTominay already in the squad. I don't see it at the moment. Obviously Amrabat was there, but he's gone. Casemiro is if you say Casemiro is also supposed to be on his way out, but he would probably be the guy who would be playing next to Menu, and then McTominay is Casemiro's backup. But we don't have anybody who's McTominay's backup to basically come in and say, well, McTominay's gone, but now you are number 4. I don't think there's anybody who's got that profile. So they need to buy another midfielder, and if they have to buy another midfielder, you're not going to get someone for less than 30 million pounds. So a long way of saying, I think they need to look for as much as they can for McTominay, because they'll have to replace him if he goes. And so they need to make sure they have the money to replace him. Any player that has to be replaced, you need to make sure that you have enough money to replace him. I think there are good midfielders that you can get for less than 30 million pounds to replace McTominay in. Ugart will be, I think, the first choice, but they need a second player. I think because Casemiro has got to go as well. So, you could probably get Ugart on a loan with an obligation. Probably, I think the fee that was mentioned was probably on 35 to 40 million euros. So it's probably what was mentioned. So yeah, so then you got to get Ugarte and then probably get a second midfield as well. And I'm still looking at Toby Collier, but I don't think he's ready for that level of football. I don't think he's ready for it. So they will need somebody else in there. But we'll see what happens. We will see what happens with that. I don't know why I'm yawning so much, but yeah, that's one thing as well. So that's I think a lot of Manchester United. So much news to cover, so many things happening, and hope there'll be more. I think Maguire's got to go. Lindelof might be going. Ederson, of course, has got to go. As I said, Casemiro has got to go. So things have been moving on there as well. Sancho might leave as well. Pellistri might leave which should be leaving as well. So lots of outgoings still yet to happen, and we'll have to see how those develop and how that goes forward. So hopefully United continue to be on the match. Hopefully they continue to do deals, because ideally you want to get your team shape ready by the time you are playing Manchester City in the Community Shield. You want that to be done by then, and for that they need to make sure that all of this is done, and as many deals that can be completed are completed by that point in time. So good work there. Moving on to some other stuff. Neves, Joao Neves, I almost said Ruben Neves. Joao Neves, we spoke about him yesterday, that PSG kind of getting close to an agreement. They're almost, they've offered, I think, 60 million euros plus 10 million euros to Benfica for Neves, which, to me is a very, very good deal. They get that done, because I think he has about 100 million euro release clause, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's a very high release clause, apparently, but they're trying to negotiate a 70 million euro fee, which is absolutely would be a steal, because he's very highly rated. He is considered one of the top midfield prospects in European football at the moment. Obviously, didn't probably have the best of Euros, but that being said, he's done very well for Benfica. And if PSG get him for 70 million euros, I mean, that for me would be a steal. It would really be a steal if they got that deal over the line. So I hope Benfica don't accept it, and I hope they ask for more from their perspective. God, I don't know what's happening, but from PSG's perspective, I think they should be pleased if they can get that deal over the line for this particular price point. So one to keep an eye on, and maybe still has more legs to run, but it looks like PSG are serious about getting Joao Neves. So let's hope that happens. Let's see how quickly that can happen. And of course, on the same note, Victor Osimhen, as we said, PSG were interested, but what has come out now is that PSG will not pay 130 million euros his release clause, which I said it as well. I said this would be out of character for PSG now to be paying 120 million pounds or whatever that Osimhen's release clause is, because he's not worth that amount anyway. And it's just it would not make sense from a team perspective that PSG are trying to build. So it's good news that's coming out is that PSG don't want to pay that amount, which I don't think they should. And what has come out is that Victor Osimhen is ready to force his move, because he wants to leave Napoli. He's ready for a new chapter, and he wants to leave, and so therefore he's willing to force it if Napoli don't negotiate with whatever club. If they don't negotiate and actually this stand firm. It's an interesting one for me, because PSG shouldn't pay that amount, but I don't see why Napoli should be asking for too less anyway. I don't know what the right price for Osimhen is, because I do feel he's slightly overrated as a striker, because he does get a lot of goals, but he's really only had 1 or 2 good seasons for Napoli, and he's very injury prone. He doesn't play a lot. He always manages to get these small niggles every season, which causes him to miss 7, 8, 10 games a season. So from that perspective, how much strikers? There are not that many good strikers anyway in world football at the moment. So how much do you pay for him? If Rasmus Højlund went for 70 million pounds ish, how much do you pay for Osimhen? I think 80, 90 million pounds, I think, is a reasonable. It's a reasonable price. It's still quite high, but I think it's a reasonable price that Napoli could expect, or should expect for Osimhen. So, but will PSG pay 80, 90 million pounds for him? If for Osimhen is obviously the question. And then if they will, if they don't, what does Osimhen do? Does he try to force his move? Those are questions to answer. What has also been a domino effect is that if Osimhen does leave, Romelu Lukaku apparently has told Napoli that he is willing to join. He wants to play under Antonio Conte again. He won the Serie A title with them when they were together at Inter. So he says he would be willing to join Napoli to work under Antonio Conte again. If Osimhen leaves, he could be a striker option. I wonder if Napoli will consider him. They might, because Lukaku's record in Serie A is not too bad. He's been quite a good striker, and obviously he doesn't belong. He doesn't want to Inter want to sell him. In fact, no, sorry, it's Chelsea I think who want to get rid of him. So that is one that I think they're looking at that very, very closely at the moment to try and get that deal over the line. So let's see if that happens. Let's see if that happens. I think Napoli will need a striker if Osimhen goes, but I think they will want. I wonder whether they're thinking of what is the price point they're thinking of with Osimhen and whether they want to keep him. But that is a transfer saga that could run as well. Another one that could run as well. But we'll see how quickly that is resolved. And also just news, I mean, we spoke about this yesterday as well. The Ederson deal had kind of stalled because of the price difference, and now it's completely off. I don't think it's going to happen anymore because Bento has signed for Al Nassr. So Ederson, they don't need a goalkeeper anymore. Al Nassr don't need a goalkeeper anymore, so they're not going to sign Ederson. They got Bento for 80 million euros apparently. They were willing to go as high as 30 million euros for Ederson, but Manchester City wanted 60 million euros, quite rightly. I agreed with that they should want at least 60 million euros for him. But yes, Al Nassr weren't going to pay that, so he's going to stay. Ederson wanted to leave. He had already agreed contract terms. Now he's got to go and play for Manchester City again. I'm sure he'll be professional about it, but I'm sure at the back of the mind, somewhere someone will be thinking, is his mind really in it? Is his heart really in it? There's always those questions. The only way to, of course, get rid of that is by really playing well, and hopefully, Ederson will, get back into the swing of things with Manchester City quickly. But it must be disappointing for him. It must be disappointing for him if he really wanted that move to Al Nassr. I think he'll be disappointed by that. But there are worse things than having to play for Manchester City, in a side that's probably going to win a 5th league title in a row, going to compete for the Champions League trophies again, probably FA Cup, League Cup as well. So there's worse things. So I think it's a blow for Ederson, but also I think there's worse positions to be in. And as long as he's number one for Manchester City, I don't think it will be that big of a thing. But good for Al Nassr. Good for Al Nassr that they decided to go for it. That they didn't pay more than what they could. They could have gone and done that deal at 60 million euros and nobody would have batted an eyelid. But the fact is, I think they said, no, we want to stick to the budget, and good for them to actually get a player for cheaper. But also good for Manchester City for not budging and being like, well, the player wants to go, so we'll do a deal for cheap now. They said, no, this is what we want, and we're not going to sell him for less. So I think good all around. Everyone, I think this is one of those few deals where most people are winners from that deal. So well done there. And also another one that is kind of heating up a little bit is Nico Williams. So Nico Williams, of course, has interest from Barcelona. They've been interested after he played really well at the Euros. Was one of the standout players there, and a lot of interest in him. We'll check it later. So a lot of players, a lot of clubs are interested in Nico Williams. Barcelona, of course, were chief among them. And there's been conflicting reports. Some are saying that Barcelona can't really sign Nico Williams because they don't have the money to sign him. But then Barcelona never seem to have the money to sign anyone, and yet they sign everyone. So that is one thing that has been mentioned, is that maybe he might. But now what has come out is that he is going to be offered the financial package soon, probably as early as tomorrow, by Barcelona. So he wants to go to Barcelona. Apparently he's interested in going to Barcelona. He wants to do the negotiation as long as everything else is in place. The question for me is, do Barcelona have the money? And if they don't, where are they getting the money from to make that signing? But it seems that they always seem to get the players they want. Barcelona, even though they don't have the money, they sign the players that they want. They don't seem to have any problems with that. So I wonder how that actually works. I always wonder how that actually works, where Barcelona apparently cannot sign anyone, but they can sign everyone. So and I wonder what kind of fee Bilbao will demand. I think you're probably looking, I would say a reasonable fee is probably 60 to 70 million pounds. I think that is a reasonable fee. Yeah, I would say that, because he's had a good Euros. He's been quite highly rated. Obviously he has a long contract with Bilbao, probably has a release clause that's quite high as well. So you're looking at that kind of fee if Bilbao are open to negotiating, which I'm not sure if they are. Normally they don't negotiate, they just pay the release clause and take a player. We don't negotiate. That's what Bilbao usually do. So I wonder what they will do in this situation. What is an added source of intrigue is that Chelsea are also interested. They want to sign Nico Williams as well. Why, I don't know. They already have so many players on the books, but they apparently think they need another player, so they want to sign Nico Williams. And then Aston Villa have also emerged as a target, because Moussa Diaby is off to Saudi Arabia. I think Al Ittihad have been mentioned as the ones that are interested in signing him. He's probably going to go there for about 50 million euros. That is the price tag that has been mentioned. So if he leaves, then Aston Villa want to bring in another winger, and they think that Nico Williams could be the answer to that. So they are willing to compete with Barcelona and Chelsea to sign Nico Williams. It would be a left field place for Nico Williams to go. I'm not sure if he'll want to go to. For me, I feel, even though Villa in the Champions League, I still feel that it is a lateral move. It is a sideways move. I don't see how it works, because yes, Villa are playing Champions League football this season, but much like what happened with Newcastle last season, they were in the Champions League, but then they ended up, they're not even in Europe this season. So I think Villa also will be the same. Will be one off. They might be in Europe next season, but they definitely won't be in the Champions League next season. So does Nico Williams want to go to Aston Villa knowing that he's probably only going to play one season of Champions League football? I don't know. If he goes to Barcelona, obviously he will be a guaranteed starter. So I don't think game time will be a problem wherever Nico Williams goes next. I think wherever he goes next, he will be a first choice 11 player. As long as he's fit. So if that is the case, then I think if you're choosing between Barcelona, Chelsea, and Aston Villa, unless the money is really good, I don't see how he goes to Aston Villa. And I don't think Aston Villa are the kind of team that are going to overpay for players. So I think it's there. I'm not sure how reliable the source is, but I can believe that they might be interested. Clubs will be interested, but I don't know to what extent they'll be able to compete. And maybe it's just talk that somebody has put out there that, oh, there are more clubs interested, so Barcelona, get your act together and sign him quickly. But even if it's not, and even if Villa are actually competing, I just don't think they'll be able to compete with Chelsea and Barcelona at this moment in time. I just don't see that happening. But whether he goes to Barcelona or whether he goes to Chelsea, whether he stays at Bilbao, I think that is a question. I do think he wants. I think it's the same thing as Leny Yoro, where player wants to go to a certain club, but if that club cannot agree a fee, cannot really provide the financial package that the other club is providing, then the player will go to the other club. And I think he wants to leave. He doesn't want to stick around, probably. Then if it's between Barcelona and Chelsea, I think that the real consideration would be whether Barcelona can make the financial package work for Nico Williams based on their own financial problems. If they can make it work, then he will go to Barcelona. If they can't, then he will obviously go somewhere else. And at the moment, I just don't know. With Barcelona, you just never know what you read, because you read that they have financial difficulties and problems, but they still sign players that they want. So let's see what happens with that one. And staying with Aston Villa a little bit, Amadou Onana is likely to complete his deal by the end of the week. That's what has been said. £50 million is the fee that they paid. I like the player. I think Manchester United, as a fan, I thought Manchester United could have done the player like that, because he's pretty good, but apparently he does have attitude problems. So maybe that was a consideration as well, that maybe, that's why maybe not a lot of top clubs have bid for him, because they feel like maybe he has some attitude problems, that he's not always focused. He has this issue of, getting himself up and, up for it. He sometimes has a tendency to not play so well in those everyday daily games, and that he only really plays in the big games very well. He's more about his profile and playing really well when the world is watching, but he doesn't do it all the time. So from that perspective, I think maybe that's why other clubs are not that interested. But Villa obviously need players, because they have very little squad depth, and they have lost Douglas Luiz, so they did need another central midfielder. So I think Onana, from that perspective, is a good deal. It's a club record deal, £50 million for him. I'm not sure about this one. I'm not sure whether it's a good price tag or if it's a bad one. My instinct is to say that it could be a deal that will come good. But from what I'm hearing about the player's attitude, if that is true, then maybe it could be a deal that could go sideways as well. So it's one that could go either way. With the price tag, I'm not sure if I can say right now. If it was £30 million, I would have said that's a steal for him. And if it was 70, I would have said that's overpaying and that's expensive. At 50, it's sort of like right in that threshold of where it could go either way. You could have a really great season and then we all say it's a bargain, or you could have a really poor season and then we'll all say it was overpaid. So £50 million is right on the precipice of that. But let's see what happens with him. But congratulations to him for getting the move. Congratulations to Everton for getting that money. Congratulations to Villa for giving that money and getting the player. And what that of course now means, as we know, is that with that deal going through, there's no pressure from Everton to sell Branthwaite unless they get a lot of money. But apparently they still want to sell Branthwaite. They thought they were going to get a lot of money from some club to sell Branthwaite, but apparently they're not going to get it now. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with that one. But yeah, it's one. So a lot of interesting things have happened this today in terms of transfer market. Really, Manchester United are the big movers in the transfer market today, and I think they will be for the next couple of days, the next week or so. I think the big clubs like Liverpool, Manchester City, I think what they will start to do deals once I think more and more players start coming back from holidays and from the Euros. I think we'll start to see Manchester City and Liverpool and the Arsenals of the world doing more deals. On Arsenal's note, I think apparently the Calafiori deal has stalled, because Bologna and Basel, because Bologna owe 50% sell-on fee to Basel. That is the clause that was there. And Bologna now don't want to pay 50% to Basel. So they're like trying to figure out, can we reduce that sell-on clause? Obviously, Basel are saying, no, screw you. You signed the contract. You have to give us 50%. And so what has happened is that Bologna don't want to sell Calafiori for the amount that Arsenal are willing to pay. And so they are saying, and Arsenal, I guess, have said, we're not going to pay anymore, which is totally fine. So it's basically between Basel and Bologna, where Bologna are telling Basel, accept a lower release clause, lower sell-on clause, or you get nothing because we're not going to sell this player. And Basel are going, well, no, we want this much. So you decide however you get whatever you get. We're taking 50%. And we're not budging on the 50%. You negotiate a higher fee with a club to sell Calafiori. So poor for Calafiori that he's probably probably wants to go to Arsenal, but he's not able to do it because of this such a high sell-on clause. But that doesn't look like it's getting resolved anytime soon. So therefore that deal has stalled, and that's tough for Arsenal because I'm sure they really wanted the player and they wanted to do some fast deals. And it's stuck because of this, and it's not really their fault. But it is what it is, that sometimes happens. Hopefully that gets resolved soon for their sake, and that Calafiori joins Arsenal soon, because they do need to make some signings. I think they need a striker though, more than a defender. I'm kind of surprised they're going for a defender. I think they need a striker more than they need a defender. I'm not sure why, because you've got two defenders and you've got a decent backup line. You really needed. Did they need another centre back? Maybe not. I'm not sure. Maybe they feel like they need backup for Saliba and Gabriel, which I understand. Simply they need a striker. Like a striker should be their top priority, because they need somebody who's going to bang in the goals, and they haven't done that yet. There's been no really talk about who they're signing as well. Tony was mentioned, but I don't think that's happening at the moment. Watkins might happen. That also seems like might not happen. So I'm not hearing a lot of news about Arsenal, so which is a little bit surprising. But maybe next week, once players start to get out that European Championships mode, out of the Copa America mode, then maybe we'll start to see some rumors for the bigger clubs come in, because it has been quiet on that front a little bit for the bigger clubs at least. And just one more thing to mention, which I should mention, is that Marco Reus has gone to LA Galaxy. That deal is almost close to completion as well. Great deal for Marco Reus. I mean, sad that he couldn't win, the Bundesliga last season, couldn't win the Champions League this season, but a top player. And I think, going to MLS is a good career step for him, a nice little sort of send off before he eventually retires. I think it's a good place for him to go as well. So, and LA is a good place anyway to be for anybody. And so for a player to go to LA Galaxy is fantastic. So congratulations to him on that move as well. And let's hope it works out for him. So that's all for now. I think, more news I think will come in, and it will keep filtering in. I'm sure we'll get more tomorrow as well. So, but for now, share your comments on everything that we've talked about. Let me know what you thought about it. Are you happy with some of the deals that were done? Are you sad with some of the deals that were done? Do you think some, clubs need to get a certain, your favorite club needs to get a move on? Let me know in the comments. Always love to hear from you guys. Smash like on this video if you enjoyed it, and do subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're getting close to 450 subscribers on YouTube, so help us reach that mark. Would really appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.